Everyone read?
My memory's a little fuzzy.
Are you still a Nazi?
Give 'em hell, Indiana Jones! What are you doing here?
Let's get you!
Hey ya!
Hello, and welcome to the inaugural and maybe occasional new podcast or video series. Oh, you liked that? Moser and Clarence Moye.
Hi. Hey, Joey. How are you?
All right, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Thank you. So we are here to talk about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which I think on our most recent podcast, that's the Water Cooler podcast, I call the Butt Dial of Destiny, which is
Yeah.
kind of ironically true in the way that some things happen at the very end of the film, but we won't spoil anything.
Yeah. I kept thinking this morning when I knew we were going to jump on to do this, I was like, maybe they should. How is there not a mist, or how has Dial Soap not done a tie-in to this movie? Like they could. You need to clean yourself. It's destiny. Get the Dial of Destiny. I don't know. My genius ideas are not going not being brought to fruition.
You're missing your career in marketing.
I know, I have one good idea every 10 months. Yeah.
This is totally off topic, but when I was growing up, and they kind of still do this now, although I feel like it's all much more cheaply done. But when I was growing up, the movie tie-ins from like fast food restaurants would be legendary. Like you would get
Yeah.
like glasses, like actual, like I have Muppet movie glasses from the late 1979, the original Muppet movie, and the Great Muppet Caper in 1981.
Mhm.
And they would have like the painted on glass. Now it's like cheap plastic toys that instantly break as soon as you take them out of the box.
I still have those. I don't think it's a movie tie-in, but McDonald's sold those Mickey Mouse glasses that were like square.
Mhm.
And I have a whole set of them. I use them all the time because I love those glasses. But I ordered them off of like eBay. Yeah, they don't make them like that anymore. And I guess you could probably say the same thing for Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So,
That is an amazing segue. I love it.
yeah. So, Dial of Destiny, the fifth Indiana Jones movie. Clarence and I have both seen it. Directed by James Mangold, written by I think David Coep, and the name stuck out to me, John Henry Butterworth, which is a great name. And don't remember the other person's name, forgive me. But we are here to do a trial run of a sort of new video series about. This is what I do. I'm doing this nonstop for 2 hours every night. To talk about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. You and I have both seen it, and we wanted to kind of see what it would be like to do a series where we talk about our thoughts on new releases. So I guess I wanted to ask you first, what were your initial thoughts of the film?
So I will say that my expectations were lowered because it did premiere at the Cannes Film Festival. I don't know that was a great. Like, I understand the importance of Cannes in terms of international attention and international markets. Certainly, the bottom line is the important thing here with Disney. But I think like this with like Elemental as well, the Cannes audience wasn't necessarily primed to really jump on this. I mean, certainly we saw Top Gun at Cannes last year, and that made a big splash, but it was a different film. This is a nostalgic film. It is better, I think, than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It's the first Indiana Jones film that we have that isn't directed by Steven Spielberg. And I think there's pluses and minuses in that. It doesn't necessarily have that sort of childlike wonder or slavish devotion to like the 40s, the 50s, that whole atmosphere that Spielberg always imbues these films with. But I think it's also better for that too, because I think when you look at something like Crystal Skull, and you and I haven't talked about Crystal Skull except for like very high level opinions, but when you get to the end of it with the alien circle and all that stuff, it just kind of jumps the shark, right? It's very, very
Yeah.
silly. Leading up to that, I think it's fine. Um, but then the ending is pretty bad, and I think it leaves a bad taste. I think it's also Crystal Skull is awash in CG, where here Dial of Destiny is much more old fashioned. It feels like it's um, made more akin to something like Raiders of the Lost Ark or Temple of Doom or even Last Crusade. It is made to look and feel more like the original trilogy, and I celebrate it
Yeah.
for that.
You know, it's funny that, talking about Crystal Skull, I watched the trailer for Crystal Skull after we podcasted this week, and it was sort of like, it's like, all right, I remember what a big deal this movie was when it first came
Mm-hmm.
out, but I do not remember anything but Kate Blanchett's wig and the car chase where she's hitting the side of the car, and
And the
Shia
ants.
and the ants, and like I didn't remember anything about the movie except that the image of like realizing that it was aliens is very burned in my brain in a very negative way. Where I remember seeing that movie. I was working in a movie theater at the time, and I got to see it like a day or two early, and I was just like, "What the fuck is this?" And I was like, I do remember thinking, I was like, "Oh, people are gonna hate it. It's gonna, ooh, it's just no, 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 no." But no, Dial of Destiny. And you said nostalgic. I mean, I agree that I think this does feel more like an old fashioned movie. Um, I do think that when I was watching it, I do think that I was thinking about like a younger audience seeing it. This may be an introduction for some people, which is going to be very strange. I think film Twitter hive mind where they're like, oh, it's the new one. I have to go back and watch all the other ones. I don't know if a lot of people who maybe are new to the indie franchise are going to necessarily feel how old fashioned it is, especially if they didn't watch the originals right before it or it's been a while since they've seen it. But I mean, I had a really good time.
Mm.
I'm glad I saw it in a theater. Um, I like it. I think some of the reviews are being a little too harsh. I don't know.
I agree. And it kind of helped me because it kind of lowered my expectations a little bit. And
Yeah.
but I do think they are being too harsh. I think it's a fine movie. I mean, I think there are things that we're going to talk about in it that I think help make it a better film than sort of a traditional Indiana Jones film. Right
Mhm.
off the bat, I want to say I talked about CG. There's some very obvious CG stuff that happens in the end, but it's not intrusive. It's not overdone. It's not showy.
Right.
Um, but the best usage of CG, I think, is ironically the de-aging of Harrison Ford for the opening sequence, which I think, for my money, is the best example that we've seen of this to date. Thoughts?
No, I agree because I have always had a huge crush on Harrison Ford just because he's like, I remember thinking of him as a young man from watching the old movies. And then it actually took me like a hot second to be like, oh, this is flashback. Oh, what I am looking at him, flashback. What I am looking at him is like an idealized Indiana Jones that I connected with the idealized hot man that Harrison Ford was when I saw him in the 80s and the 90s. But yeah, it took me a second to realize that we were going back because I thought it did look really good. So and I don't believe anybody when they say, "Oh, the de aging is not good." I was like, I don't think you're go back and watch The Irishman.
Well, yeah, and which do you want it? Like everybody shat all over Solo because
Mhm.
Alden Emmerich wasn't Harrison Ford, right? And
Right.
now, what are you going to do? You're going to cast somebody else as Indiana Jones, or you're going to de-age him? And I think de-aging him is the much more palatable solution. And I think the technology is caught up to improve upon the Irishman. I have no idea what was going on in the Irishman in terms of that. I mean, I don't know if they just didn't spend the time on it. I know there's been a lot of dialogue online about studios not giving FX houses the ample time to create great
Mhm.
special effects. I think mostly it's centered around the special effects of a Flash film that I have not seen yet. Um, but the CG here, it makes a lot of sense, and it's not de aging just for de aging's sake. There's a background to the story,
Mhm.
and the first 10 or 15 minutes takes place in the Raiders of the Lost era. I'm not sure that they've gotten Harrison Ford to that like the Dial of Destiny de-age Harrison Ford doesn't exactly look like the Raiders of the Lost Ark
Yeah.
era Harrison Ford, but that's okay. It's close enough.
Yeah, and it's a lengthy prologue. I was
Yeah,
surprised
I actually didn't.
yeah,
When we first saw it, I was a less of a fan of it than you were. You really thought it was engaging and popping, and I just wanted to get into the story itself.
oh, I thought the opening was a little too long, but I thought
Okay.
but I maybe I'm just a sucker for a train sequence. Like I was like, they're gonna go under the roof. Ah, there's a tunnel. Like I was excited for that. There's like even a nostalgic sense to a train sequence because those are like old fashioned. So yeah, no, I agree that it's a little long, but I was entertained.
Maybe I had Polar Express PTSD.
Hot chocolate.
Don't do that.
Oh,
So you like that train sequence? I'm kidding.
yeah.
Um, and but we get into the main part of the story, and I will say, Harrison Ford is he knows how to play Indiana Jones. He's great as this older version of Indiana. Um,
Mhm.
there's a really fun sequence in the very beginning of the modern day story with set in the context of the film where he is a archaeology professor, and instead of all the students being enraptured by this man and having "I love you" written on their eyes, they're completely bored by him. They're not paying any attention.
Yeah.
And Phoebe Waller-Bridge is sitting in the back of the audience, and she knows all the answers, and that's how we get introduced to her, which I think is it's a good scene. It doesn't. I like these little small moments with Indiana Jones.
Yeah, and it sort of it kind of plays with that. I mean, Indiana Jones is an American movie icon. So I mean it's sort of like I'm glad that they're showing that there are characters who don't idolize him because they don't know what he's done. Um, which it's I don't know, it's sort of I don't know, I like that quality to that opening scene. I'm glad it wasn't just like, oh my God, our professor did all this stuff and he fought Nazis. Isn't he great? Like I liked how there's sort of an immediate conflict with him feeling a little out of touch. And just Phoebe Waller-Bridge in the back, she just sort of, I don't know, connects with him immediately. But she's the only one.
Well, it's a little bit of a meta commentary too, right? I mean, I imagine
Mhm.
most young audiences don't really know Indiana Jones, don't understand the
Much
legacy of that
involves the
character.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, but that leads us to what I think is the best sequence of the film, which is not to it is an early sequence, which is not to say that the rest of the film isn't good, but the staging of the chase during the parade sequence in New York City is outstanding. Like there's so much visually going on there, and it's the
Mhm.
way that it's set up, and Harrison Ford hopping on the horse. It all just
Mhm.
worked for me. I thought, I was blown away by that sequence. I think it's one of the better sequences in any Indiana Jones film.
Yeah, him running on horseback on and it goes it's an extended sequence and it's
Mm-hmm.
sort of I like how he's inside. They go down into the subway, they go on the tracks, they come out off the tracks, they go onto a different platform, they run back up onto the street. um I don't know, I keep saying old fashioned, but there's something about that is also feels like people today wouldn't go there in terms you know going their 81-year-old star on a horse.
No,
No,
it
wouldn't
also
happen.
screams production design, production design.
Oh my God, the production design in that, oh, Jesus Christ. I actually thought to myself when I was watching that, I was like, Clarence is going to lose his mind. He's going to talk about the production design because I know how much you love production design with a lot of stuff. Yeah.
As much as you love costumes.
Yes, that definitely puts into perspective for me.
um, but it also, as great as that sequence is, I would say the thing that sells this film for me, which is the heart of the film, is Phoebe Waller-Bridge and her
Mhm.
performance here. I think if you take Phoebe Waller-Bridge out of it, it becomes vaguely one note. It becomes too mired in legacy or nostalgia. She brings it a pop, she brings it a modern sensibility, she brings it sass, sarcasm, whatever you want to say. She makes a
Mhm.
great sort of I wouldn't call her a femme fatale character, but I would say she's um I just like her interactions with everybody. I think she
Yeah.
brings a twinkle to her line readings. I mean, it's not looking at side camera, all the time,
Uh,
but it's the way that she
uh,
did in Fleabag. But it's she's a very underrated actress, and I think it's a lot of fun here.
you know, she's a great, okay, um, she's a performer who she's never going to not intellectually infuse what she's doing into what she's
Mhm.
doing. She's she came into also like pep up the script too, right? Am I or maybe I'm misremembering that, but anyway, but she if even if it's something where she's writing it and performing in it or just performing in it, even when she was in, ironically enough, you bring Alden Ehrenreich up earlier, she did the voice in that Solo movie.
Mhm.
um she did the voice of what, a robot, and she was the reason
Yeah.
I went to go see it, because I want to hear Phoebe WallerBridge as a robot. um no, she's so twinkly, and I don't want to say a rat-a-tat-tat, but she brings a rat-a-tat-tat to everything. It's not just with Harrison Ford, it's also with that kid that I can't remember the character's name. But she's so um I don't know, she brings an electricity to it, and it's sort of like she challenges him in a different way, because it's not a romantic relationship. She could, do something completely off on her own, and she could have her own adventure series if she wanted to with this character,
Mhm.
because she's a character who is solely, not solely, but she's very driven by money. And I don't know, the conflict between those characters is so great. I could watch 12 movies with these two people. They're really, really good. I actually just got a they have a Funko Pop of her, and I bought one for, I don't really buy Funko Pops anymore, but there it is. She's on my desk. Send it to you. But she has her sunglasses on. She has a fun hat. So it's the first chance I have to have a Phoebe Waller-Bridge action figure, and I'm taking it. So
There you go. You talk about the character, the sidekick. I also can't remember the character's name. I really should have had this up on my screen, so forgive me. But um, that was the one thing I sort of vaguely found annoying about the film. Not his performance. It's not an annoying child actor performance. What I found annoying was that this is a essentially a street urchin kind of character who can do anything, can hold his breath underwater for like 20 minutes,
right.
can fly a plane, just escape any kind of nefarious situation, um, in a classic Indiana Jones kind of way. But he's a child. It's like a 12-year-old child.
Yeah. I was like, I don't need you to have the know-how of, again, 81-year-old Harrison Ford. His name is
Right.
Teddy, played by Ethan Isidore.
There you go. Didn't mind the performance. Thought the kid was fine. Just there was a lot going on with him, and it was a little. It was a little suspension of disbeliefy, which I guess you have to approach Indiana Jones films with anyway.
Yeah.
Um, where would you place this film in terms of a ranking? Because I know everybody's
Oh
obsessed with
goodness.
rankings, right?
Um, I mean, I don't even know how I would, you know, rate the original movie. I will admit it's been a while since I've seen the original. I probably should, like a person online, just rewatch them, but I guess I would probably
So they're
do,
on Disney Plus now.
well, um, synergy. Um, I'll probably do later Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom. I might just go in the order, but then just flip. Uh,
Dial.
yeah, Dial with Crystal Skull, but put like 50 feet of crap between them. But like it's like Dial of Destiny, 50 feet of crap. Uh, Crystal Skull.
There's this whole narrative online of people sort of reevaluating the first three, the original trilogy, and again, it may be a generational thing, but they love Last Crusade. They say it's the best Indiana Jones film, which I find completely inaccurate. Um, Maybe I'm old, whatever,
Not
but
to
I
not to
will.
be contrarian.
Yeah, exactly. But I will say all three films are fun. I will always have a place in my heart for Raiders of the Lost Ark because that ending is batshit insane.
Oh yeah.
But the ending of Last Crusade is the most fun. I would say probably Temple of Doom is as somebody mentioned, and I do agree with this, that it's hard to believe that that is a prequel when Indiana Jones in the original film says, "I don't believe in mumbo jumbo, hocus pocus, or whatever."
Mhm.
And yet, the entirety of Temple of Doom is about like this Indian mysticism, and it's all kinds of ripping hearts out of people and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Temple of Doom is insane, but I would my ranking is probably very similar to yours. I may do some play with depending on the mood that I'm in. Play around with the original trilogy. Raiders of the Lost Ark would be number one, number two, and number three in any given moment can jump between. But you're right. I mean, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 4. I don't hate Crystal Skull. I do understand that it is a mess, but I don't hate it necessarily.
I don't think I would never say that I hate anything Steven Spielberg directs. Like he does set pieces and stuff better than almost everybody. So I mean,
Yeah,
I say that with a sort of a winky criticism for that movie. It was just thinking about that movie, maybe like I said at the top, it's like, what is this movie? I remember I remember the when I worked at the movie theater there, the guy who was the general manager was so excited because he was, older than me, probably sweet spot of when Indiana Jones first came out. The minute he got a poster for that movie, he put it above his desk. And then like after the movie, it was not long where he took it down and replaced it
no,
with something else that he wanted. I think it was The Dark Knight. So
no, of course.
of course. So yeah.
All right. Well, final thoughts.
My final thought is better than people are saying, fun, had a great time, well paced. Just don't pay attention to the reviews on some. Just also, I just want to just say as a general note, everybody should not read reviews until you see the movie anyway. That's just my little plug for dear God, God forbid you have your own opinion about something. But yeah, a lot of fun. Harrison Ford, great. Last time, Phoebe WallerBridge, really great. So let's go see it.
Yeah. So you like that, huh?
You like that, huh? Yeah.
I agree. It is fun. It is. I don't know that it's going to appease a younger audience necessarily. I think that they will find it stodgy and too old fashioned for modern taste. But I think for an older audience, I don't know that it's going to hit that 60 million mark that everybody's talking about for box office next
Mhm.
weekend. I think it might come in a little bit low, but it is the 4th of July weekend. But we'll see.
Can I also say that it was just something that I thought of the whole time? I mean, Nazis have been a through line for all of these movies, and the whole time I was watching it, anytime I was just like, "Oh God!" Remember when it was just a hard line of like Nazis? No, no, stop, no. The times they are a changing.
Yes.
Um,
Well, it was Russians in Crystal
that's
Skull.
true. That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
So different.
But had to bring the old Nazis back.
Nostalgia.
All right. Well, Joey, it was good to sit down and chat with you about Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Let's do this again.
Yeah.